just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of these islands and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. And this we beg in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen. Please be seated. Item number 2, confirmation of minutes, the minutes of the 9th of June, 2021. Senator Michelle Simmons, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam President.
Good morning to you.
I move that the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, the 9th of June, 2021 be taken as read. But there is one small item to be addressed. It's on page 4. It's just a typo. It's in the 4th paragraph down, and the paragraph begins, Senator WMP Simmons expressed condolences. And about the midpoint of that paragraph, the word service is missing the V. It says, recently retired after 42 years of sterling public service. Okay, so with that, once again, I move that the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, 9th of June, 2021 be taken as read with that amendment.
Is there any objection to that move? Senator Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Just in the same section, on the same sentence, actually, the word public is missing a B.
Thank you for that. So with those corrections then.
Madam President, I move that the minutes of Wednesday, the 9th of June, 2021 be confirmed with those 2 amendments.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. The minutes are confirmed with those 2.
Thank you,
changes.
Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons, Vice President of the Senate. Moving on to item number 3, messages.
No messages, Madam President.
Thank you. Item number 4, reports of committees. There are none. Item number 5, announcements. And before I open to the floor for senators to respond, I would just like to make 2 announcements. And one is that we've received apologies from Senator John White, who is unwell, and we wish him a speedy recovery. The second one is we've also received apologies from OBA Senate Leader Senator Ben Smith, who is abroad at this time. And item number 3, I would just like to inform the public that the Senate is meeting in chamber today here at Veritas House, and we are observing COVID regulations. Those are my 3 announcements, and the floor is open now. I think we do have announcements from senators. The annual report of the Regulatory Authority, and that is in the name of the Junior Minister Simmons.
Good day, Madam President. I'm actually going to read it both together.
Yes, you can.
So the annual report of the Regulatory Authority of Bermuda 2018 and the annual report of the Registry General 2020. Madam President, I hereby present for the information of Senate the following reports. The annual report of the Regulatory Authority of Bermuda for the year ended 31st of March 2018 and the annual report of the Registry General for the year ended the 31st of December 2020. Copies of the report can also be accessed on senators' tablets and or the Parliament website. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Lindsay Simmons, the Junior Minister of Home Affairs. Your announcement is noted. The second is the Trade Union and Labor Relations Transitional Regulations, and that's in the name of Senator Arianna Hudson, the Junior Minister of Labor, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I hereby present for the information of Senate the Trade Union and Labor Relations Transitional Regulations 2021, as made by the ministry responsible for labor under the provisions of Section 1022 of the Trade Union and Labor Relations Consolidation Act 2021. A copy of the regulations may be accessed on Senator's tablets and on the Parliament website. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Arianna Hudson. Now move on to item number 6, which is the notices of motion. The first one is the National Pension Scheme temporary regulations, and that is in the name of Senator Arianna Hudson, Junior Minister of Finance, and you have the floor.
Madam President, I hereby present for the consideration of Senate the draft regulations entitled the National Pension Scheme Refund Temporary Regulations 2021, proposed to be made by the Minister of Finance under the provisions of sections 24(9)(c) and 69 of the National Pension Scheme Occupational Pensions Act 1998. And I give notice that at the next day of meeting, I will move that the said draft regulations be approved.
Thank you, Senator Hudson.
Thank you.
The second notice of motion is the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Number 3 order, and that is in the name of Senator Curtis Richardson, the Junior Minister of Health. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I hereby present for the consideration of Senate the draft order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extensions Number 3 Order 2021, proposed to be made by the Minister responsible for health under the provisions of Section 107A.
We can't hear you. Can you speak a little louder? Is your microphone on?
It is. I can speak louder. Madam President, I hereby present for
That's
the
better.
consideration of Senate the draft order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extensions Number 3 Order 2021, proposed to be made by the Minister responsible for health under the provisions of Section 107A of the Public Health Act 1949. And I give notice that at a later point in the meeting, I will move that the said draft order be approved.
Thank you, Senator Richardson. The next notice of motion is an exchange of land agreement between the Corporation of Hamilton and Hamilton Warehouse Company Limited, and that is in the name of Senator Darrell, the Junior Minister for Public Works. You have the floor.
Good morning, Madam President. May I also do the two notices
You
together?
certainly can.
Thank you. Madam President, I hereby present for the consideration of the Senate the following draft proposals. An exchange agreement between the Corporation of Hamilton and the Hamilton Warehouse Company Limited regarding areas of land situated at number 9 Brooklyn Lane in the city of Hamilton, and a sale and purchase agreement between the Corporation of Hamilton and Arnold's Discount Limited regarding the triangular lot of land situated adjacent to number 20 North Street in the city of Hamilton, with each agreement proposed to be approved by the legislator in accordance with the provisions of sections 21A and 21B of the Municipalities Act 1923. I give notice that at the next day of meeting, I will move that the said draft proposals be approved.
Thank you, Senator Darrell. Moving on to item number 7, petitions. There are none. Item number 8, statements. There are none. Item number 9, introduction of bills. There are none. Item number 10, the first reading of public bills. The following public bills have been received from the Honorable House of Assembly and are now read for the first time. Their titles are respectively the National Pension Scheme Occupational Pensions Amendment Act 2021, the Economic Substance Amendment Act 2021, and the Public Health Amendment Number 2 Act 2021. Item number 11, the first reading of private bills. There are none. Item number 12, question period. It is my understanding that from Dr. PEETS that the written answers to parliamentary questions from Senator B.A. Smith, would you like to speak? Oh, they have been received. I beg your pardon. So, Minister PEETS, then we thank you for that. The questions and the written answers have been received and will be recorded in the minutes as having been received. So we thank you for that. Item number 13, the orders of the day. And the first order of the day is the consideration of the draft order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Number 3 Order. And that's in the name of Senator Curtis Richardson, the Junior Minister of Health. You have the floor.
Madam President, I move that Standing Order 71-2 be suspended so that Senate may now proceed with consideration of the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extensions Number 3, Order 2021.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Carry on, Senator Richardson.
Madam President, I move that the Senate do now take under consideration the draft order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extensions Number 3, Order 2021. Madam President, I am pleased to invite this honorable chamber to consider the order entitled Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extensions Number 3, Order 2021. Madam President, members will be aware the current public health emergency order is scheduled to lapse on the 24th of June, 2021. The emergency order, in place since the 30th of June, 2020, following the state of emergency, in place from the 1st of April, 2020, is made pursuant to Section 107A of the Public Health Act, 1949, and declares that a public health emergency exists in Bermuda due to the communicable disease that poses a threat to the island. We live on a very small island, and as we know from outbreaks in December and in March and April of the COVID-19 can spread quickly and impact our whole community as hundreds of people test positive and thousands end up in quarantine. We can slow the spread of the virus by following basic public health advice by wearing a mask to cover up your nose and mouth, as well as physically distancing, downloading the We Health Bermuda app, and avoiding the 3 C's of closed spaces, crowded places, and close contact settings. The more barriers and space there's between you and others, the harder it is for the virus to spread. Also, Madam President, we are fortunate in that we have added another layer of protection, the COVID-19 vaccine. As has been said many times, vaccines save lives, and it is no different with the Pfizer, BioNTech, and AstraZeneca vaccines being used in Bermuda now. Both vaccines have proven to be highly effective after 2 doses. If immunized and you do get COVID-19, you are likely to experience more mild symptoms and become less ill, as your body is better able to fight off the virus. This means we can keep people out of the hospital and have fewer deaths due to COVID-19. With a reduced viral load in your system, it is also hoped that you are less likely to transmit the coronavirus as well. While researchers continue to delve into the impacts of vaccines on transmission, initial studies are promising. Madam President, this government is firmly of the view that the COVID-19 vaccine is the key to our return to normal. Madam President, Bermuda's goal of community immunity will be achieved when 70% of the population of 64,054 people has been immunized. To date, 64% of the population has been vaccinated with 1 dose. 55.4% of the population has been immunized with 2 doses. When you take into consideration that just the eligible Bermuda population, those that are over the age of 12, which is 72.2% of the population, has been vaccinated with 1 dose, and 62.5% of the population has been immunized with 2 doses. These are great results so far, and I think all those people who have taken the step to get their vaccination to protect themselves, their families, and our community. Madam President, as a government, we recognize it will take more time to reach that goal of community immunity. Therefore, a more immediate goal is immunization of 90% of persons over 65 years old, which is our most vulnerable group. I am very pleased to report that 6% of residents over 65 years old are vaccinated now with 1 dose. An impressive 76% are fully immunized with 2 doses, which means we are well on our way to achieving our goal of at least 82% will become immunized. To repeat preventing infection, the onset of the disease itself, and community spread via a program of mass vaccination will be a critical part of how we navigate our way out of this pandemic. We have all felt the impact that COVID-19 has had on us personally. and we all know how it has impacted our island's economy. Getting vaccinated is an integral part of our ongoing collective effort to reduce the spread of the virus here on the island. This is essential, not only for our health, but also to allow us to return to a sense of normalcy with our daily lives. Madam President, honorable members, as we all know, COVID-19 was caused by a new virus that spread quickly throughout the world. Unfortunately, it still exists in large parts because it can be transmitted with ease so easily between people who are in close contact or through coughs and sneezes. While most infected people suffer mild flu-like symptoms, some become seriously ill and some even die. Madam President, in my role, I consulted with the chief medical, in the role of the Minister of Health, the chief medical officer was consulted, and it was determined that a communicable disease of the first or second category, namely COVID-19, continues to pose a severe threat to public health in Bermuda. The recent outbreak, which saw both a sharp rise in positive cases and an increase in deaths, highlighted the impact of variants of concern. In this case, the UK variant of COVID-19 B117. To control and contain the spread of infection, public health measures such as those provided for the regulations will continue to be relevant and necessary beyond the 24th of June, 2021. This order before us now will extend the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Order 2021, made under the Public Health Act 1949, to permit the governor to continue the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Powers Regulation 2021, which pursues extraordinary measures necessary in the interest of public health to prevent, control, and suppress COVID-19. Madam President, honorable members will be aware that the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extensions Order Number 2, 2021 was made under the positive resolution procedure effective the 25th of April, 2021 for 60 days, expiring the 24th of June, 2021. However, the COVID-19 pandemic continues to rage on globally and a public health emergency continues to exist on our shores. Therefore, in accordance with Section 107A, subsection 3 of the Public Health Act 1949, I bring the Emergency Extensions Number 3 order to this honorable chamber to prolong the state of public health emergency for a further 60 days, ending the 23rd of August, 2021. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Curtis Richardson. Would any senator care to speak on this? Senator Jones, you have the floor. Marcus Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning to my fellow colleagues here in the Senate, and good morning to the listening audience. I first want to thank the Junior Minister for bringing this particular piece of legislation to this chamber. And I will say right off the bat that as the opposition, we in principle agree with this extension. We quite vigorously in sessions in the previous year, we argued about the need to give these powers to the minister, and we understand why she did it. We understand that with an ever-evolving national crisis, the minister needs to have the flexibility to put regulations in place. So we sincerely respect those powers and those rights given to the minister. But one can also make the case, Madam President, that this move, at least from our vantage point, to extend the time period of this order for 60 days could be deemed as an overreach, and I'll explain to you why, and I'll bring context to my argument. We quite strenuously debated the need for Parliament, in both houses, the right to be able to debate and discuss changes in regulations that are going to impact every man, woman, boy, and girl in this country. When the constitutional civil liberties of our fellow citizens and ourselves even are being challenged, are being, I don't want to use the word trampled upon because that's a strong volatile word and is being bandied about in the public. And so I want to back away from those highly volatile words, but listening to the public, reading the blogs, getting a sense of the pulse of this community. Our people are feeling hard done by. They're feeling like their human rights and constitutional rights and liberties are being trampled upon. So, Madam President, we on this side, we would have preferred and liked for the government to, instead of putting forth 60 days, but to have put forward 30 days. We are still in session. By all indications, we in both houses are going to be in session for a good part of this summer. We know that this particular crisis is, as I said earlier, it's ever evolving. And so things that we observed over the last couple of days in the public domain, which has caused a lot of angst and anxiety, I believe a lot of it could have been avoided if these chambers would have been given full reign to discuss some of the finer details of the regulation. Now, Madam President, we do appreciate that in the early part of this pandemic, the Premier and his team readily invited the opposition to be a part behind the scenes of the planning and the monitoring and the management of this national crisis. And what many in the community don't realize is that we as a party, we saw the need to rise above politics and link hands with this government and to ensure that we put forward a united front to the public. Now, we asked some hard-hitting questions behind the scenes, but in the face of the public, we wanted to come together. Now, as the Premier has managed this particular crisis, and he has gained a fair amount of plaudits and congratulations for the way that he's managed this crisis, I will say that I never did pull my green pom-poms out of the mothballs to cheer him on, but I did commend and have commended the work that he's done. We now find in these latter days that things have sort of come apart. And I believe it's because this has been an overreach. And allow me to even delve even a little further in some of the happenings of what has been going on in our community. For one, we recognize as we look in other jurisdictions, for example, Australia, both non-vaccinated and vaccinated residents, when traveling back into the country, they all have to be quarantined. So there's no example of discrimination in that country. In our country, we're finding through policies that's been put and regulations being put forward by this government, those that are not vaccinated, we now know that they have to have, when traveling back to the country, they have to have a travel authorization form, which for them requires that they show proof of a prepaid hotel stay, which for the average Bermudian, which for all of us, I believe is onerous and causes a divide within the country when we should be a people and a community that's coming together. Madam President, let's just quickly go through a chronicle event listing of what's happened over the last couple of days. Early in June, we found on the government website the statement that anyone, and talking about residents who did not have a travel authorization form, would be denied entry into Bermuda. That was on the website. It was read by everyone. It was there. And we see through social media, many of our residents have, in an attempt to get back to the country, were held back in airports abroad. I was astounded and amazed that even one of the government backbench MPs, he publicized his discontent. Now, if the members of the PLP government team are stepping outside of the confines of the government to discredit and to complain what their government is doing to its citizens, then, Madam President, we do indeed have a problem.
Madam President, point of order, if I may, or clarification.
Senator
I don't-
Darrell, what is your point of order?
I don't think that any government MP was discrediting the government. I would like to say that he was bringing clarity to a situation. Madam President, thank you.
Carry on, Senator.
Thank
Jones.
you, Madam President. I'm not too sure what the the Honorable Senator was privy to, but it was all there for the entire country to see the complaints that was coming through directly through an MP on the other side. Be that as it may, Madam President, the natives are restless. They are fatigued. And to see a government that is contradicting itself, trying to clean up a PR nightmare while we're getting through this national crisis, Madam President, is sad to see. Now, a lot of these missteps and earn goals that was scored in the PLP administration's earn goal could have been avoided. We recognize in another place that all the amendments that were required to be put through so that these regulations would be in place in time for June the 24th expiration of the first order was not present, was not in the hands of the members of parliament. So what we're seeing is either one, incompetence on the government side, or two, a disdain for the democracy and its process. And so, Madam President, it is incumbent upon us here on the opposition to make noise about this, to really come to advocate for those within our community that are feeling discriminated against. And we call upon this government to consider possibly reducing the time frame by which this extension would go, as opposed to 60 days, to allow for 30 days, Madam President. We find that even in the public domain, through media press statements by this premier and by his Minister of Health, it's contradictory what they're saying. From one side, he's saying that Bermudians were always allowed entry into this country. On the other side, on the government website, and the Minister of Health herself stated ever so clearly that Bermudians would not be able to enter the country without these travel authorization forms. What is it, Madam President? Are we being disingenuous as a government in instructing and giving our people the information they need so that they don't feel like second-class citizens and can't come back to their own country, Madam President? I'm sure you've heard the disquiet yourself. And so many of our people in this country are feeling left out. They are feeling disenfranchised. They are feeling hard done by. And it's incumbent upon us as legislators, when we put bills and legislations in place, that we have the human rights and constitutional liberties of our people as our priority. Yes, we do have to balance protecting the community from this health risk, but we also must keep our eyes on the human rights and the civil liberties that our residents expect. Now, what was also curious to me was that the statement was made by the government that they had since Sunday, when we saw most of this kerfuffle happening, that they made a statement to the airlines that they are not to disallow any Bermudian entry into Bermuda. But what confuses me is that the airlines was only following the instructions of the government. So it's like the government is arguing against itself. So these sorts of miscues and missteps can be avoided. And we as legislators can come together and put our heads together and give the opposition at least the space to be able to debate it, to discuss it. The country is looking for us to take the responsible road and share in the decision making, to come together as a combined force to ensure that the rights of our people are not trampled upon, Madam President. So in closing, I have to say that with the frustration and the disquiet that we see in the public domain of our people that are not only fatigued because they've done well, by and large, our people have followed the instructions that's been placed upon them for these now, I believe it's about, I would say 16 months. And you can imagine, we can all experience it ourselves as legislators, how it's now becoming a little bit much. So with those short words, Madam President, we do in principle agree that an extension should be afforded the government, and in this case, the minister, to be able to extend these orders. But we would strongly suggest that the government consider 30 days as opposed to the 60 days. I believe that will give time for both chambers to discuss and debate these regulations in a manner which will cause the public to feel comfortable that we have discussed it, debated it, crossed our T's, dotted our I's to ensure that we've done the right things so that we don't have these obvious miscues. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Marcus Jones. Would any other senator care to speak on this regulation? Yes, Minister Peets.
Good morning, Madam
Mechanism.
President.
Good
Good morning,
morning to
Senators.
you.
Thank you so much for an opportunity to address this honorable assembly.
Mhm.
It's very, very important for us as a country to remember that we're still in the midst of a pandemic. We have dangerous COVID variants in our gateway cities. This type of emergency extensions give the Minister of Health as well as the government the opportunity to respond to outbreaks quickly so that we can save lives. Without these extensions, in the event that a dangerous variant is introduced, our ability to respond to protect our people, to protect our economy, to protect our country is severely curtailed. We certainly understand the responsibility that these extensions mean to each of us and for all of us. So I'm really, really glad this morning that we have a government that's responsive. This particular pandemic, no one has a playbook. We weren't prepared for this. No one was prepared for this. And we have a lot of diligent work that has been going into this particular pandemic to keep us all safe. I would remind us just a few weeks ago, we had a severe spike, hundreds of new cases. And that was very, very unfortunate. And we certainly don't want to see that happen again. So I'm really, really happy this morning that we have an opportunity to talk about this, as well as to provide the Minister of Health with the necessary legislation so that in the event that emergency powers are needed, the minister can actually act very quickly so that we can continue to protect our economy, protect our people so that we can save lives. So having said that, Madam President, thank you for an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Senator Dr. E.G. Peets, Minister of Youth, Culture, and Sport, and the government leader in the Senate. Would any other senator care to speak? Senator Michelle Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This public health COVID-19 emergency extension number 3 order is important. It's important because, as Minister Peets just said a few minutes ago, the government has to accept responsibility for keeping its citizens safe. Looking at how COVID has spread, looking at the fact that we now have, and it has been confirmed, the Delta variant is in Bermuda, and we know that it spreads even faster than previous variants. It may happen, I hope it doesn't, but it may happen that the government will have to respond very, very quickly to an outbreak. It's something we don't want to see, but we have to be realistic and understand that the Minister of Health has responsibility for making decisions very, very quickly under those circumstances. Therefore, in my opinion, this is the responsible thing for the government to do, to bring this order forward so that the power is there to act. I can tell you that I have appreciated the lifting of most of the restrictions just a couple of days ago. We were able, as part of our family, to have a small gathering. We still adopted COVID regulations. We stayed outside as much as possible, but we have to be cognizant of the fact that COVID is here and it has not gone anywhere yet. I think that we have to look at the long term. We have to take a long-term view. We have to be ready to act. And therefore, I give my support to this order. I know that the sound of the possibility of a 60-day extension doesn't make anyone feel happy, because our lives have been impacted quite severely by the restrictions. But I'd rather be alive, and I'd rather be working toward keeping all of the community safe. So, Madam President, I give my support to this order. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons. Would any other senator care to speak on this order? No, then I would just like to say that I support this order for some of the reasons that have already been mentioned, in that we're just beginning to open up and reduce some of the restrictions on this island. And with the variances, you've heard about them, and we've monitored. We've heard the reports from the minister, and I think that it's better to err on the side of caution rather than just restrict it to 3 months. I think that the period that this minister, remember that the people who are making these decisions we've been doing this for this past 18 months, and we really do not, at this stage, when we hear what is going on in other parts of the world, we've opened up our borders, people are beginning to travel here, and we really need to be very careful about the decisions that we make. So I've heard everything that has been said this morning, and each of us have our own views about it. But I think that the experts in this island have made the decision. They're the ones who have the responsibility for keeping us safe. And I think we need to trust their decision making. It is not just one individual or several individuals who sit around and look at everything before they make the decision. So I think that personally for me, as a health professional as well, and considering our hospital and what has been going on and all the protections that are in place, I do believe that this is the right decision for us at this stage. And while it may offer some restrictions, I think by and large, Bermuda has fared very well so far, and we pray that we continue to do so. So with those few words, I would like to echo my own support of this bill. Thank you. With that, Senator Richardson.
Thank you, Madam
Have a
President. Madam President, I
reply.
move that the said draft order be approved and that the following message be sent to Her Excellency the Governor. May it please Your Excellency, the Senate, having had under consideration the draft order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extensions Number 3, Order 2021, proposed to be made by the Minister responsible for health under the provisions of Section 107A of the Public Health Act 1949, has the honor to inform Your Excellency that the Senate has approved the said draft order.
Is there any objection to that message being sent? No objection. The message will be sent. Thank you, Senator Richardson, and all senators for your contribution. We'll now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the second reading of the public health, subject to the grandstanding order 25, the Public Health Amendment Number 2 Act 2021, and that is in the name of Senator the Honorable Dr. E.G.V. PEETS, Minister of Youth, Culture, and Sport, and the government leader in the Senate. Mr. PEETS, you have the floor.
Madam President, I move that the provisions of Standing Order 25 be granted so that Senate may now proceed with the second reading of the bill entitled the Public Health Amendment Act Number 2, 2021.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Carry on, Minister PEETS.
Madam President, the Public Health Amendment Act Number 2, 2021
Do the second reading, I'm sorry.
I'm grateful, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill entitled Public Health Amendment Act Number 2, 2021 now be read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Carry on, Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Once again, good morning to all our colleagues and our listening audience. Madam President, the Public Health Amendment Act Number 2, 2021 provides for a revision of aspects of the fixed penalty regime for the enforcement of COVID-19 preventive measures. This will enhance the enforcement provisions to ensure the safety of our residents, in particular, the most vulnerable. The purpose of this legislation is to provide further for the creation of a ticketing regime for breaches of the public health and quarantine legislation that relate to COVID-19 in order to more efficiently enforce penalties for activities that present a material risk to the public. The regime follows the legislative regime for traffic tickets found in the Traffic Offenses Penalties Act 1974, where the hearing of any defense to an alleged breach will be in court. The aim is to relieve pressure on the courts in the enforcement of select number of offenses. Madam President, you recall that the amendments introducing fixed penalty regime for public health and quarantine legislation were passed earlier this year. However, upon further development, it was determined that further changes were needed for operational purposes. Madam President, as well as we are aware, the COVID-19 pandemic continues to rage globally and locally. While the country is increasingly close to achieving community protection through vaccination or herd immunity, there remains a continued need for protective measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and to protect lives. Despite COVID fatigue in the population and an increasingly vocal minority who feel disenfranchised by these unfortunately essential public health measures, compliance with public health and traveler rules continues to be very high. However, when these breaches occur, enforcement continues to be difficult because of the prolonged process required to prosecute offenders through the courts. Madam President, this amendment remains focused on the enforcement of COVID-19 breaches that are considered to be material breaches. The types of COVID-19 breaches that occur can be categorized in three types. Type A, serious breaches that immediately endanger public health and safety. Type B, material breaches that present high risk of COVID-19 transmission. And type C, minor breaches that introduce risk of COVID-19 spread. Madam President, serious breaches such as knowingly exposing others to a communicable disease will be prosecuted through the courts as required by the relevant legislation. Minor breaches such as not wearing a mask in a designated place can be addressed with a simple reminder by any member of the public or a regiment or police officer. Material breaches fall between other two in nature and in risk. Such breaches include, for example, withholding contact information for tracing from health officers or participating or hosting a gathering above the number legally allowed. The material breaches are the types of offenses to which a fixed penalty is intended to be attached. This Honorable House has already supported the government in the view that such breaches can be better enforced with a fixed penalty or ticketing regime by trained officers. What this amendment does is restrict that power to issue the ticket to the police or regiment officers and make some additional consequential changes. The bill provides for a police officer to issue a public health penalty ticket where a person commits an offense and removes this power from the public officers. This enables fixed penalties to be in effect sooner through police powers and trained officers. Provides for public health penalty tickets to apply to the various offenses under the public health and quarantine emergency powers regulations. Increases the ticketing penalty from $1,500 to $10,000 for the offense of refusing to answer questions as required by a police officer. This is to cover instances where an individual may refuse to identify themselves so that the fixed penalty can be issued to the proper person. Provides for the minister to prescribe the content of a public health penalty ticket in regulations. The form of the public health penalty ticket will be published on the Bermuda Police Service website. This is so that the current fixed penalty tickets used by the police can be used for the purposes of public health penalty tickets. Importantly, Madam President, the bill ensures that persons who pay the penalty within 28 days do not receive a criminal conviction, and provides for persons to contest a ticket in court where they believe they are innocent. The Ministry of Health consulted with the Bermuda Police Service, with the Director of Public Prosecutions, with Magistrates Court, and with the Attorney General's chambers in the development of the policy for a ticketing regime for the enforcement of a COVID-19 enforcement measures. I am very, very grateful for the assistance received in making this legislation possible. With these brief introductory remarks, I'll take my seat, Madam President. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Peets. Would any senator care to speak on this bill?
Yes, Madam President.
Senator Marcus Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you. First, let me say thank you to the Minister, PEETS, for bringing this this Public Health Amendment number 2 bill to this chamber. I do understand the need to have it formulated and structured so that the ticketing of offenses can be done in an efficient manner and avoid our citizens from being made criminals for falling foul to the rules and regulations that are here. I would ask one question, and I didn't hear it in his brief, if he can give us a more clear and comprehensive reason for the actual dollar amount that went from $1,500 to $10,000. That seems steep for these offenses. We understand that this is a move to do all the government can to protect its citizens. $10,000 did seem a little bit onerous and harsh, but if he can give us more of an explanation, that'll be great. One thing that I was really glad to hear, because it brought some clarity to this bill, was his breakdown of the 3 types of breaches: serious breaches, material breaches, and minor breaches. If the minister can provide for us the dollar amount, maybe the ceiling amount for each category, because I believe in his briefing, and I stand to be corrected, that he did make the statement that for those that are found refusing to answer questions, they could be fined $10,000. But I'm reading here in the memorandum for this legislation that, in fact, the person that refuses to answer the questions as required by a police officer can be given a penalty of $3,000. So if the minister can, in fact, give a little bit of clarity to the ceiling amounts of the fine and the penalty that has to be paid by a citizen that that violates these breaches according to these 3 categories, from serious to material and to minor. What also caught my attention was the requirement that these penalties be paid within 28 days. 28 days for the average Bermudian to come up with $10,000 is a little steep. And I am very much averse in our attempt to make the country safe and to penalize those that breach these regulations to make them a criminal. So from one vantage point, they're being fined and given a penalty for breaching it without having to incur the indignity of being made a criminal. But if you don't pay it in 28 days, you're going to be a prisoner. You're going to be a criminal. So I'm wondering if 28 days can be rethought out to be a longer period of time, 60 days. I guess as you notice, the opposition were always looking for extended or reduced days, but I think that all comes to bear when we put our heads together and we say, are we doing things that's going to protect, but at the same time ensure that our citizens are not, overwhelmed with regulations that could potentially, and in this case, if they don't pay this fine in 28 days, they will be made a criminal. So with those brief remarks, as I said earlier, in principle, we agree with this amendment. We understand to some degree why the government is doing that. But if the minister can provide us with a more extended explanation to my questions, I would be forever grateful. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Marcus Jones. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Michelle Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Minister PEETS, for your presentation this morning. And I too would like to thank those who have crafted this bill. In my opinion, it's necessary because it will help to strengthen the enforcement of the public health regulations. And I think we probably all know of ways in which people have been breaching regulations but haven't suffered any consequences. Unfortunately, it has to be done because that is what will get the attention of those who might consider doing the same thing. So this is necessary, and I'm happy to see that it will relieve the pressure on the public health officers who need to be focused on public health and not on enforcement of the regulations. But I do have a couple of questions. In the act that's being amended, in the Public Health Act 1949, it allows for public health officers to issue tickets. So will they have that power at all? Or has it been completely given back or given over to the police? And I heard Minister PEETS say, and regiment officers. That's one question. Do the public health officers retain any ability to issue tickets? The second question I have is about regiment officers and how much training will they have had to issue these tickets? The police have the training, we know that, but I would like to know which regiment officers and how much training that they will receive. Will it be all the regiment or just those who are involved in public health monitoring? With those brief comments and my two questions, I would like once again to say, I think this is a necessary amendment to these two acts, and hopefully the police won't need to issue too many tickets, but we know human nature. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? No, then it's over to you, Minister PEETS, to respond to the questions. I will say too, before I do that, is that I support the bill, and I support it for the same reasons as Senator Michelle Simmons said, that sometimes people need to know what the consequences are and that they will be issued to them. So it's over to you to respond to the questions that have been asked. Thank you. Minister PEETS.
Thank you, Madam President. One of the things that the government realizes is that these amendments are necessary regarding the whole conversation around enforcement. This pandemic has lasted longer than we would have liked or wanted. I would believe that's the sentiment around the entire planet at the moment. We also wanted our response system to be nimble as well as responsible. We also want to simplify things so that things are a little easier for not only our health officials and our public enforcement agencies, but also the general public to understand. We also want to communicate that these amendments are also serving as a general deterrent. So as the information becomes readily available on what the fixed penalties are, it's not only simplified, but it also clarifies some things, makes things a little bit more nimble and responsible, but also acts as a deterrent. Regarding the questions from our Honorable Senator Jones, clause number 8 amends section 107H2 of the Principal Act to provide a penalty from $3,000 to $10,000 for the offense of refusing to answer questions as required by a police officer. That falls into one of those categories that the brief had mentioned, serious breaches and or material breaches. These particular breaches in nature require a stiffer penalty. The stiffer penalty, of course, is one, acts as a deterrent, but also two, represents the serious nature of the offense or breach. In the event that an individual commits a material breach or a serious breach where they immediately endanger the public health and safety, or a material breach that presents a high risk of COVID-19, our health officials can report today that the spikes in cases, particularly the ones in which we have recently have experienced, can be traced back to a material or serious breach, which has had a long-lasting consequence, not just on the economy, but on every single person who lives in the country. So given the gravity of the consequence, we think that the penalty also needs to be reflective of the breach. I hope that explanation is satisfactory for the honorable senator. Regarding Senator Simmons, thank you so much. What I can suggest is that clause number 7 amends section 107G, 107H, and 107J of the Principal Act to replace the reference of a public health officer with a police officer in order for the police officer to take over the responsibility for issuing public health penalty tickets from a public health officer. So in that particular case, the public health officer will not be issuing the ticket. The ticket will be issued by a police officer, thus releasing the public health officer from engaging in a dual relationship of enforcement and public health. And it creates that delineation to make things a little bit more simpler for all parties involved. If there are any other additional questions that perhaps I could be helpful with, I'll be glad to assist.
Thank you.
Uh,
Senator Michelle Simmons, you have a
Thank
additional
you, Madam President. No, I just wanted to reiterate my question about the regiment and the training for the soldiers who will be issuing tickets. The regiment's not mentioned in the bill unless I missed it, but in the brief that Minister PEETS delivered this morning, they were mentioned specifically.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Senator. So the bill allows for the public police officers to engage the public in the issuing of tickets. There is provisions under various bills and legislation that the Bermuda Regiment can assist in the enforcement of certain public regulations, but they are not permitted to issue tickets. So those tickets will be issued solely by the police officer.
Thank you for that response. Seeing that, then you want to move second reading first and then move the bill, please.
Madam President, I move that the bill entitled the Public Health Amendment Act Number 2, Act 2021, now be read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Carry on, Minister.
Madam President, I move that the bill entitled the Public Health Amendment Act Number 2, Act 2021, now be read a third time.
Is there any objection? Oh, yes, of course.
Thank you, Madam President. Much appreciated. Thank you. I move that the bill entitled the Public Health Amendment Act Number 2, 2021, that the suspension of Rule 26 be applied in this particular bill.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Rules seem to be in it. Now you do the,
Much excited this morning, Madam
Yes.
President.
done all the work anyway. You're going to do the third reading?
Yes, I now move that the bill do now pass.
Third reading.
Oh, my goodness. Madam President, I move that the bill entitled to the Public Health Amendment Act Number 2, 2021 now be read a third time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill do now pass.
It has been moved that the bill entitled the Public Health Amendment Number 2, Act 2021 do now pass. Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. The bill is passed. Thank you, Minister PEETS, Government Leader in the Senate, and all senators. We've come to the end of our orders of the day. We'll now move on to item number 14, motions. There are none. Item number 15, congratulatory and or obituary speeches. The floor is open for any senator. Senator Darrell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This morning, I would like to give condolences to the family of Mr. Carlton Pluke Smith. Unfortunately, Mr. Smith passed away over this holiday weekend. And those of you that follow the Eastern Counties cricket series would know that Pluke was a former player of Cleveland County Cricket Club. He was a former president of Cleveland County Cricket Club, and he was a role model and a gentle giant in the community of Harris's Bay, Dabbles Hill. And I would tell you, while celebrating the holiday on Monday, it was a shock to me to hear of the loss of Mr. Smith. One of his probably proudest moments would be when he was the president of Cleveland County in 2014. And after 33 long years, Cleveland County won the Eastern Counties Cup in a overwhelming victory over St. David's down at Seabreeze Oval. And if you would have just saw the joy on the community of Dabbles Hill and Pluke at the time. And one of his other achievements was in 2018 when Cleveland did not have the cup, Bayless Bay had it. And no one thought that Cleveland had a chance to win the trophy that year. As president, Pluke decided to take a young team down to Bayless Bay that year. And Cleveland County batted first, and they bowled out Bayless Bay Cricket Club for 93 runs. And I can remember that day, the proud look on his face, knowing that he was the president of a club that had faith in youngsters, and as he watched these young people grow up and win that trophy. So to all of the community of Harris's Bay, Dabbles Hill, to all of the family and friends of Mr. Carlton Pluke Smith, I'd like to send my condolences from the Senate. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Darrell. Would any other senator care to speak? Senator Robin Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I would like to associate myself with Senator Darrell's extension of condolences to the family of Mr. Pluke Smith. I would also like to extend congratulations to Mr. Tony.
Senator Robin, can you?
Sorry.
Can you speak?
I would also like to extend condolences. I beg your pardon. I would like to extend congratulations to Mr. Tony Thompson, who has recently been appointed CEO of Gibbons Company, as well as the Special Olympians, Bridget Marshall, Micah Lambert, and Eden Woolery for qualifying for the 2022 U.S. Summer Games in Florida.
Yep.
And finally, I would like to say congratulations to Nicola Soares and Renee Thomas on their appointments to the Freiburg Academy Board of Trustees. Ms. Soares is a former teacher, and she has held positions with NBC Universal, NBC Learn, and McGraw-Hill Education. She currently lives in Michigan and is president of Kelly Education, the nation's largest education workforce solution provider. Renee Thomas, which most people that have been in government for any period of time, and certainly people within the community, will know her, and if not her, certainly will have known of her father, Austin Thomas, and her mother, Eula Thomas, and her sister, Selena, who are incidentally my cousins. And Renee has worked for the Department of Culture since 1989, and currently she's an assistant to the director. So again, on a personal note, congratulations to Renee and also to Nicola Soares as well on their achievements. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Robin Tucker. Any other senator care to speak? Senator Michelle Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to associate myself with the congratulatory remarks to Mr. Tony Thompson. And I would like to add congratulations to Miss Arianna Keynes, a former head girl of the Barclay Institute, who has recently been called to the bar. Arianna is an impressive young woman, and I know that she's going to make an invaluable contribution to the legal community here in Bermuda. Of course, we know that she is Dame Lois Brown Evans' granddaughter, and so she has that legacy behind her, but I know that she will build her own legacy. I would also like to extend congratulations to the 4 people who received recognition by Her Majesty the Queen in the Queen's Birthday Honors List. Miss Laurie Shield, who happens to be my niece, the Executive Director of the Center Against Abuse, Mr. Alan True, a veteran of the hotel industry, who has worked for tourism, I think, during all of his adult life and has done a sterling job wherever he has been. Dr. Clarence Maxwell, who was recognized for his service to culture and Bermudian history. Dr. Maxwell is the author of several publications, and most importantly, he is now an assistant professor of history at Millersville University in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And then the 4th person was Mr. John Beard, who has taught in Bermuda for 40 years. And if you have been involved in sport, you would know his name because he's cultivated generations of talented sports persons through his work as head of PE at Saltus. But he's been involved in numerous sporting organizations. So the 4 of them deserve hearty congratulations. And then finally, I would like to extend condolences to the family of Mrs. Jan Hollis, especially her husband, Archdeacon Emeritus Arnold Hollis, the former rector of St. James Church in Somerset, as well as their daughters, Allison, Catherine, and Reverend Joanna. Mrs. Hollis was truly Dr. Hollis's partner because she had her own ministry at St. James as organist, as leader of music, I'm going to say. And certainly, I'm sure their presence is being missed, but I know that Mrs. Hollis will be terribly missed by her husband. So with those remarks, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons. Would any other senator care to speak? Senator Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President.
Simmons.
Thank you. I would like to give condolences to Mr. Luis Furtado's family as they are burying him today. He's from Devonshire. and I was able to, he was a part of C12. So I just want to give condolences to his family as they bury him today. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Lindsey Simmons. Would any other senator care to speak? No, then sorry, Minister Peets, you have the floor.
I do apologize. I just remembered, Madam President, that maybe it'd be a good idea if, as a Senate, that we send our best wishes to Senator Ben Smith and the swimmers who are headed down to Puerto Rico. We certainly wish them the best. We're proud of them already,
Yes.
even without having the results to come back. Just the fact that they have endured a very difficult period during the pandemic, trying to train and stay fit and stay motivated, and be able to travel to Puerto Rico to pursue their dreams. I think that's something that makes us all proud. So hopefully, on behalf of the entire Senate, we certainly wish them well.
I'm very sure, Senator Minister Peets, that we all join you in those words, and certainly look forward to a good report from them, and hope. I know their dream is to go to Tokyo, so we will wait with bated breath. But thank you for that, and we all join you in those comments. I would just like to myself associate the entire Senate body with the congratulations on the 4 individuals who are well known in Bermuda, who Senator Michelle Simmons mentioned received the Queen's certificate. I think that when you're honored in that manner, I think it is a great honor for them, and a recognition of their contribution to the island. So I would like to associate the entire Senate body with that, with those comments that you have made, Senator Michelle Simmons. I would also like to join the comments that have been made by Senator Michelle Simmons with respect to the condolences on the passing of Jan Hollis. I had the opportunity of working with her at the hospital, and I knew of her work, in the church, certainly with her husband in Somerset. But she, at the hospital, made a name for herself as a social worker, and so I join you in sending condolences to not only to her husband, but to all the family of the Somerset region. So with that said, we'll now move on then to item number 16, which is adjournment. Would any senator care to speak on the motion to adjourn? I beg your pardon. Why am I rushing us this morning? I do apologize considerably. There is no need for that, and I do apologize to the entire Senate body. Minister Peets, government leader in the Senate. Item number 16 is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. Ask that we adjourn until next week, Wednesday, which is June the 29th. No, sorry, 30th. June
yes.
the 30th. Thank you, Madam President.
Well, with that, then, my question is, would any senator care to speak on the motion to adjourn? Senator Michelle Simmons, Vice President of the Senate, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I just cannot let this opportunity pass me by. I would like to share a short story this morning, which I hope you, Madam President, my fellow senators, and the listening audience will find interesting. I'm going back to Monday, October 6th, 1879, when a group of 6 gentlemen met in what was described as the new building known as Wantley. It belonged to Samuel David Robinson on Princess Street in Hamilton. They gathered to discuss the establishment of a secondary school which would be racially mixed. Of course, one of the key goals was to provide for the education of Black students, since the schools established by the legislature excluded them from getting a secondary education. A second meeting was held 3 days later on October 9th, when the original 6 men were joined by 5 others. So altogether, there were 11 men. They're described as being colored. These 2 meetings led to the founding of the Berkeley Educational Society, which is still in existence today and is still committed to the same goals. For the record, and I think it's important for all of us to hear the names. May I read them, Madam President?
Certainly may. Senator Simmons.
You'll hear connections to Bermuda of today. First, Joseph Henry Thomas, Richard Henry Durden, William Henry Thomas Joel, Samuel David Robinson, Eugenius Charles Jackson, Charles William Thomas Smith, William Orlando Boscombe, John Henry T. Jackson, Samuel Parker Sr., and Samuel Parker Jr. And the last of the 11 was Henry T. Dyer. Madam President, these men had a vision. They also had the determination to press ahead, recognizing the importance of providing for the better education of the people. And I emphasize, even when the legislature, which governed all of Bermuda, did not possess a similar view or desire. Rather than wait for government to provide secondary education for all its citizens, these 11 men moved forward with their own plans. But how long did it take them? Astoundingly, after 18 years of fundraising and having meetings up and down the island in all of Bermuda's parishes, the Berkeley Institute, both elementary and high school or secondary school, was opened on the ground floor of Samaritan's Hall on Court Street, Hamilton. The date, and every Berkeleyite knows this date, September 6, 1897, 18 years after that first meeting in Samuel David Robinson's home, Wantley, on Princess Street in Hamilton. At that time, the Berkeley Institute was a private school and parents had to pay a fee. Since then, the Berkeley has produced leading scholars in Bermuda who have been involved in all aspects of life, here and overseas. Of course, I don't have enough time to name all of those wonderful Berkeleyites who've been contributing to Bermuda over the years. But the school has been in existence for almost 124 years, making a significant contribution to Bermuda. History and historical artifacts, Madam President, are important because we learn from them how past societies, past systems, past ideologies, past governments, cultures, technologies were built. We learn about how they operated. We learn about how they've changed over the years. This is important because it gives us a window into our collective past. I'm not just talking about Berkeley's past. This is Bermuda's past. It is our community's history, its legacy. So that building on Princess Street, Wantley, connects us with our past. It is not just a building to be demolished. It adds perspective to the Berkeley story, the Bermuda story, and all of us, whether we attended the Berkeley Institute or another school in Bermuda. And therefore, by restoring Wantley to its previous condition, all of us can get to experience this. We can all experience what our legacy looked like then. Are we going to allow Wantley to be demolished? After 13 years of neglect by respective governments, Berkeleyites, and other members of the Bermuda community who believe in the preservation of our history, our culture, our heritage, we must step forward and do our part. The legacy of the Berkeley Institute has been passed down from the founders, including Samuel David Robinson, to successive generations of Berkeleyites. And even though I'm not going to sing it to you today, I'm going to remind you of just the second verse of the Berkeley Institute School song. And it begins, Senator Darrell will know, we are the men of the years to come. We are the women of the future. What will become of our island home without our nurture? For we have the brain and the brawn and the blood of those who handed us the torch of life. And we pray that we'll aspire, emulate our worthy sires, and be heroes in the strife. So I am calling on all of our heroes to step forward and let's do our part to save Wantley. It's not just a building. That's our legacy. That's our heritage. That's our history. Madam President, as you can tell, I feel strongly about it, and I'm prepared to do my part. So I hope that there are others out there who are listening, who are also prepared to take a role in saving that building. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons. Would any other senator care to speak on the motion to adjourn? Here.
President.
Oh, Senator Darrell,
Yes, I would like to speak.
you have the floor.
Madam President, I've said this before in this honorable house, and I'll say it again. I am proud to be a member and a senator of the Progressive Labor Party. And while another senator earlier today mentioned green pom-poms, I would say that this Progressive Labor Party isn't always about a party. We are not always about the show and the glitz and always winning a popularity contest. However, Madam President, I will remind fellow senator that spoke earlier today and used words such as contradictory, that on October 1st, 2020, it was the Progressive Labor Party that went to the polls of this country. And our election manifesto was about strong, steady leadership, Madam President. I will also remind my Senate colleague from another party that when you are a strong leader, sometimes decisions are difficult. I will also remind the senator that spoke earlier that on October 1st, it was the people of Bermuda, the electorate, not just the ones on social media, that voted 30-6 for the Progressive Labor Party to lead this country during difficult times. And we knew back then, Madam President, that the road was going to get rough. We knew back then, Madam President, that the road was going to get rocky. What we did not know, Madam President, at that time, that 32 individuals, 32 Bermudians, 32 family members would unfortunately lose their lives to COVID-19. So, Madam President, while some of us may have time to spend all day on the blogs and misinterpret what cries for help Bermudians may be experiencing overseas, those of us who are members of the Progressive Labor Party spend our time working, spend our time picking up the phone, talking to constituents, spend our time trying to fix the issues that some of our people may be experiencing overseas. Some of those issues range from misinterpretation of the regulations. Some of those issues range from someone putting in their first name twice. I know because I did that, Madam President. It ranged from some individuals in the community not having a total grasp on technology, and we've recognized that. And we've put more assistance in place to assist individuals overseas. But Madam President, I'd like to say to all my Senate colleagues today that the Progressive Labor Party hears the cries of our family members. We hear the cries of our neighbors. We may not always be on the blogs, but I'm sure we have passionate discussions with close friends, close family members, constituents. And the number one objective right now, Madam President, is to keep this country safe. And I know Senator Simmons did talk about some of the restrictions being lifted last week and some of the enjoyment that I have seen a lot of people have over the holiday weekend. But what the health ministry has said, and the public officers that work in health have said, that our greatest challenge right now is keeping other variants out of our borders. By shutting down our borders and making it very tough for variants to get in, we are making it easier for Bermuda's economy to be restarted. I was talking to a business owner earlier, and he was excited after this weekend that his establishments were full. They were vibrant. He was asking the government for further assistance to help keep his business afloat while it gets back. Over the last couple of months, Madam President, I'm sure all of us have heard individuals that have not been so lucky with their business, who've said that their business is maybe 1 month from closing. If you walk through Washington Mall, you will see that several businesses are no longer there. So I'll go back to say, Madam President, that while some politicians may run to their propaganda sheet, some politicians may take this opportunity to jump on a bandwagon and call names and use words like contradictory. And I can tell you that the party which I represent, the Progressive Labor Party, day in, day out, spend hours debating with each other, discussing how we can get the balance right to keep our people safe and open our economy for business. There are others on the blogs that I saw someone this weekend and he said, "Hey man, no problem. It's just all jokes. Just have a laugh." And I would say, Madam President, going back to the 33 families that have lost loved ones, this is no joking matter. So I'd like to say thank you to all of the leaders, whether it be from public officers in health, whether it be from national security, whether it be from border protection, anyone who has anything to do with keeping Bermudians safe. I'd like to say today, Madam President, thank you. And I'd like to applaud once again the strong leadership of this government, who will very soon bring Bermuda out of this pandemic. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Darrell. Would any other senator care to speak on the motion to adjourn?
Yes, Madam President.
Minister Peets.
Thank you so
You're in
much.
the Senate, you have the floor.
I don't often take the opportunity to speak during motion to adjourn for a variety of different reasons, but this morning I feel compelled just to share a few words. You know, we have not had fair weather these last 15 months, and trying to govern and trying to lead during a stormy period of a pandemic certainly reveals a lot. I'm certainly grateful to everyone in our country, our government, our civil servants, and even everyone in here. It really helps me to be encouraged to know that we haven't forgotten. We haven't forgotten that we have to remain vigilant. And we still have some work to do to protect our country. And my thoughts this morning are really towards our long-term recovery. Most of us have been in the trenches each and every day, you know, dealing with the pandemic and all of the things that are related to that. And I can say this morning with a lot of joy, as well as with a lot of honesty, that we've worked hard as a country. And when I say as a country, I'm talking about every single Bermudian as it relates to, you know, doing the necessary things in order to allow us to get to this point where some of our restrictions have been relaxed and reduced. I remember on Bermuda Day, I had the opportunity to be in the lead car coming out of St. George's as the Sinclair Packwood race was beginning. And as the lead car was going through the streets of St. George's, coming along the causeway into Crawl and Bayless Bay and Shelley Bay and then Middle Road, when I saw the crowds out that day, I'm not ashamed to admit it was a bit emotional. And I was so excited and so happy to see the event happening and to see people out enjoying it. And it just dawned on me on how much we've missed it and how hard we've worked to get to this point. And I was extremely privileged and honored as the Minister of Youth, Culture, and Sport to have a view of that event from that particular vantage point. So right now, it's for me, my message to the country is that while we're having fun, we have to remember that it is a very delicate balance given the emergence of dangerous variants in our gateway cities. But we do have a lot to look forward to this summer. We have the opportunity to enjoy the beach. We have the opportunity to enjoy barbecues, the resumption of cricket, and perhaps for some of us who enjoy raft ups, we get an opportunity to enjoy some of that as well. But as I think about where we are today and where we need to be, one of the things that this pandemic has really shown me as a concerned Bermudian and as an adult and as a parent and as a family man is how important community is, how important family is, how important our corporate worship is, and all the other things that make up our everyday life, and how precious these things are. This pandemic has really shown to me how horrible a pandemic can be as it relates to its ability to restrict all those things. I was happy this morning to be back in these chambers. As much as I appreciate the ability that we can continue to do the business of the people remotely, there is something special about being in the company of others and to be able to do our work face to face in the company of each other. So this morning, as we begin to think about where we are and where we're going, I certainly want to thank all of the senators, both opposition, independent, and government senators for their diligence, for their hard work. But to remember, as we go forward, it's a very difficult balancing act of being open and reducing restrictions, but also trying to keep our country safe and our long-term goals in mind. So having said that, we certainly need to support all of our government leaders as it relates to this very, very difficult task that they have on top of their shoulders. We certainly would love to be able to wake up each and every day without having to think about how to manage COVID and to be able to focus our attention on other things. But having said that this morning, I'm very, very proud of how our country has responded. I've had the opportunity to travel a few times in the last 15 months. And I must say Bermuda has done extremely well compared to some of the things that we've seen in our news and in our other gateway cities. So having said that, Bermuda, congratulations. We have a good summer ahead of us with lots of things that we can look forward to. But we have to remain vigilant because gateway cities are still a threat as it relates to these dangerous variants. But I'm confident this morning that we have the right mix of individuals and talent to continue to steer us in the right direction. Thank you, Madam President.
And thank you very much, Minister Peets, government leader in the Senate, for your really astute words. And I think we've taken it all to heart. And anybody listening would certainly do the same. We are very fortunate in Bermuda. With that said, Senate stands adjourned till next week. That's June, sorry, yes, the 30th. Thank you all.